a so-called spiritual teacher, tells you when you have a chronic illness that you need to focus positively, it just boils my blood. It makes me really angry. He is actually saying that you have a lack of character. So while you're trying to recover from a chronic illness, you've probably encountered the approach of positive thinking. And since you're watching this, chances are that it didn't really work for you. Before I got ill, I really mastered the lifestyle of positive thinking. And in many ways it brought me lots of success. But deep down, the things that I actually craved for were connection, love, safety. It didn't really fulfill any of these needs. So what I didn't see was that the things that I craved for, trying to use this technique, didn't brought me what I actually wanted. Instead, they were coping mechanisms to achieve a certain goal, what I thought would bring me love, success, connection, but it didn't. I didn't realize back then that all my tactics were coping mechanisms to deal with an unresolved emotional state that I had. My parents were very, very demanding for me as a child, and I come from a very dysfunctional family, and like in many families, there was no unconditional love. Instead, I knew conditional love. So my parents were very demanding, and being demanding was the only form that I knew to receive any form of love. And later on in life, we use this as a coping technique for ourselves. So this coping technique is called the demanding parent coping technique. And it basically, we've been programmed to treat ourselves the way that our parents treated us as a child. Why? Because we want to feel connection, love. So we go on to life not knowing what love actually feels like, not knowing where the real issue is, and we try to pursue all these strategies that we think will bring us unconditional love, connection, but it really doesn't. And when I was a child, when I was crying or when I was screaming, the message that I got was, Daniel, there is no reason to cry, or Daniel, there is no reason to be angry. That way of suppressing our emotions is from a demanding parent that doesn't want to deal with us emotionally. It doesn't want to connect with us emotionally. But later in life, this parent is of course not in the picture anymore. But the issue remains. We treat ourselves exactly the same way as our parents treated us when we were very, very little. So I had to suppress my feelings and emotions. And sometimes when they showed up, my feelings of loneliness, I've even felt ashamed for it, trying to suppress it even more. I've buried it really deep down to a place where I thought I would never feel it again anymore. And the positive thinking really didn't help that much, because the positive thinking made me always look the other way. Positive thinking is a coping strategy. It's putting our head in the sand and pretend that nothing is wrong. In order to get any form of love as a child, I learned that I needed to excel in everything that I was doing. As an adult, this became very dysfunctional, as I've tried to learn as many skills as possible. Right now, the amount of skills that I've learned in life are insane, but did it really bring me anything? No. No, it's just been very, very demanding for myself. In 2016, that's 3 years ago, Teal Swan made a video. It's on YouTube. If you Google Teal Swan chronic fatigue syndrome, I watched it, and she was actually saying in the movie that the reason for chronic fatigue syndrome is chronically doing things that you don't want to do. At the time, I was very angry with this message, because it didn't feel like she took me serious. But now 3 years later, I realize how right she was. Many people with CFS have had similar life experiences as I had. And positive thinking, in my eyes, only makes our suffering even greater. Although I think there is a place for positive thinking in the early stages of spirituality, I think we are really ready to leave it behind. And also see that a person with ME/CFS does everything to excel at anything. So whenever we are offered a protocol for healing, we go all the way in it. And maybe those kind of things are the reasons why we have CFS in the first place. Because chronic fatigue syndrome, the fatigue, the pain, or the muscle weakness, or the brain fog, these are symptoms from psychosomatic issues. And that means that our stress bucket is completely full. And we have stress because all these coping mechanisms that we have in trying to excel, trying to do things we actually don't want to do, because we crave something else, is causing stress. And we need to learn to stop doing that. And positive thinking really doesn't help. Even if you are in bed and you're saying that you cannot do anything anymore, that you just lay there all day, every day, still, your mind is going crazy about the things you should be doing. Maybe you feel like anxiety about the things you should be doing, or the plans you're making in your head. So even this is stressful for the body. And if you would like to calm down and lower the stress in your body, I recommend watching my movie called well, anyway, I put the link up there. So yeah, while you're having CFS-ME, you're ready to leave the initial stages of positive thinking from spirituality behind and start a deeper path of spirituality, a path where you really go within. Because think about it, positive and negative, what does it really mean? Is there really such a thing as positive or negativity? What you probably are experiencing for your opinions about positive and negative is that it relates to your parents' opinion of what you did as a child. So there was positive behavior for them and negative behavior for them. But right now, these labels really don't make sense anymore. And like all the labels we know, good and bad, it doesn't exist. There is no such thing as good. There is no such thing as bad. They're just labels. And all these dualities, well, you might know other ones like day and night or hot and cold. As black and white as these labels might seem, there is really no place for transition. And in reality, there is always transition. There is always a gray area. And what I found in people with chronic fatigue syndrome is that they usually have a very high amount of black and white thoughts. But in order to heal, we need to be aware of our thinking and try to see if we can make it more nuanced, more gray. For me, the feelings of, for example, loneliness, they originated from a very young age. I'm a twin and I was born premature. The first few weeks of my life, I've been in an incubator. First, I was with 3. I was in the womb of my mother together with my twin sister. And maybe an hour later, I was alone in an incubator for a month or like 5 weeks. This is the baby that didn't evolve emotionally because the meats were in that. So trying to talk to yourself rationally, like you would to an adult, really doesn't help the emotional body. Because would you talk rationally to a baby or premature child? No, When it's crying, you would pick it up and you would comfort it and you would accept it and you would love it. And that is exactly the way that we have to treat ourselves as well. Because our emotional body is, in this particular area, a premature baby. And only when you learn to give it love, to give it what it needed, for example, by using the completion process from Teal Swan, you can evolve emotionally. You can become a child and then become an adult, and it can go pretty fast. But you have to start the process. There are, of course, other emotional processes which are much easier as the completion process. And in my opinion, they don't really do the job. So, for example, the tapping, it's just, for me, the feeling is get rid of the issue as fast as possible. But for really deep traumas like this, we need to go a little deeper. In the world of real spirituality, we don't condemn anything anymore. We don't make judgments based on good and bad, positive and negative. Instead, we're trying to see whenever we feel triggered about something, that it will tell us something, and that the emotion is okay. By not condemning, the emotion has more space to be. And oneness is the foundation of who we are and the foundation of the universe. So by not condemning, by not labeling, by not judging, by not polarizing, the duality, the two things, will dissolve into nothingness. Stillness, silence. And suddenly the issue dissolves. And that's real spirituality. One thing that I really want to get out of there is that when a spiritual person, a so-called spiritual teacher, who is in the business of denying 50% of the world and all its things, tells you when you have a chronic illness that you need to focus positively, it just boils my blood. It makes me really angry. He is actually saying that you have a lack of character, that it's your own fault that you're ill. And people do this in society all the time, to homeless people, or people without a lot of money, people who are ill. It's just bullshit. And in fact, people who have chronic fatigue syndrome, I have found them to have the most character I've ever seen in people. And that was frightening because it reminded me of myself. So, thank you very much for watching. If you like these videos, please subscribe. And if you like to read my blogs on my website, just go to my webpage, danielvanloosbroek.com. And maybe I'll see you next time. Or you will see me. I just look into a camera. But I guess you already figured it out.